these options and help us understand how to make informed financial decisions. We'll also explore questions like, why is Kenya's savings rate still low despite increased financial services, and how can Kenyans safeguard their savings from inflation? We have that and much more lined up for you. Thank you, Elizabeth, for joining us in studio. You are so much welcome.
Thank you, Irene.
Now, we just have to give an overview of the savings culture in Kenya. We know it has stagnated at 12% compared to Africa's savings rate at 17%.
Sure.
In the next couple of years, looking at how Kenyans are surviving and the economic pressures that are in the country, what would you say the future looks like for the savings culture?
Good observation, and very interesting that you have observed. We've stayed at the 12% for the longest. As a nation, I think the wake-up call for deliberate savings culture came in during COVID, when everybody was disrupted from their economic activities, and they became acutely aware that they needed to have savings for them to survive such kind of catastrophes that can come anytime. So in my estimation, I think that the leap towards higher savings is on. We are on a trajectory which is good. I hear more people ask about savings more than before. I've been in the industry for more than 18 years, so I can tell you the conversations 18 years back were very different from what we have today. So the youth, the middle-aged, the old people, I think there is an awakening that has come, and there is effort towards making more savings. I think what is drawing us backwards, it's the increasing cost of living that is taking away and dwindling our, the people's disposable incomes. But granted, the journey is on, and I think once we overcome the current hurdles that the economy is going, I do expect that we will see a rise in the savings rate in our country. So I'm very optimistic.
Okay. Being in a financial institution, what role should banks play when it comes to ensuring that we save as a country, and also ensure that they're encouraging more Kenyans to save?
Very good. I think the role of financial services players is specifically one, provide obviously the vehicles and the opportunities to make those savings and investments, but most importantly, we need to demystify investments, and we need to create awareness and make investments available to as many, democratize it, make it available to as many as possible, and not leave it as a preserve for a certain group in the economy. So opening ourselves or opening the opportunities to as many, so devolving it. I think you'll appreciate that for a long, long time, investments, I think, were preserved for Nairobi in terms of regions, but now we have seen that devolve, and really appreciate that now there is even money flowing in the counties because of the devolution of our constitution. So it's really good that financial services providers would also devolve these, not only as banking services, but expanding to all other areas, including investment, including insurance, and all other forms of investment products.
There are many savings options, and we'll explore each on its own. But I want to kick us off with Charamas. Charamas is the most common saving option, especially even in the rural areas, even in Nairobi, even in the uptown areas.
Yes.
But Charamas have evolved significantly over the years. What are they, and why are they so popular?
Charamas are great, and I really congratulate women especially, because I think they are the bedrock of Charamas. And why I say Charamas are great is because Charamas give you the persistency and the discipline towards putting aside money, postponing gratification for your current need. So that's the first pinnacle of getting to the discipline of saving and investing, that you're able to postpone a consumption today, and you actually do it, you get to satisfy it later. Now, that's a good thing. So that's saving. That's just putting money aside. That's what Charamas do, and they build that accountability, discipline, And that's a first level of building a good base towards a savings culture. Now, the next thing that Charamas need to do and what they need to promote is moving away from just revolving the money, because that's what they do. They revolve a shilling. It's a good thing. However, it only deals with the current need, so consumption mainly. So me and you, we do the charma, I give you the money, you consume and you go. So they need to move from being just a platform that puts money together for consumption to having long-term goals. And we've seen some of them progress towards that, but we need many of them do that. And then we will explode into a savings culture that you've never seen before.
I am in a Chama. Are you in a Chama?
Yes, I am.
Great. So what are the benefits of joining a Chama compared to savings individually?
Accountability is one, and discipline the other. Because if you normally contribute every Friday, you must contribute every Friday. You have friends there, you have maybe even relatives there. They keep you accountable, and of course, the relationships are really, really good. So I say that's a beautiful aspect of Charamas. So I love those two especially. Yeah.
Charamas, as we said earlier on, have evolved over time. And they're now investing in assets like real estate management. You're also seeing investing in opportunities that offer wealth creation. From where you sit, have you seen women or group of Charamas who come and now say we're going to invest in a real estate?
Yes, we have Charamas who have very aspirational, and they have, you know, lofty goals, which is very important. But just to encourage even the ones who don't have a lot of money, because some of the lofty goals, like going to real estate, they're capital intensive. So probably we might discourage the small Charamas who are doing really little monies. But to say that even if your goal is not so lofty, it's not you're not going to reach maybe building this big mansion or big building, you still need to have a long-term goal that takes you to a further place than just consumption. Yeah.
Are there mechanisms to protect Charama funds and ensure transparency among members?
Yes. They need to form proper governance structures, and of course ensure that integrity is highly guarded among themselves, because integrity is everything, whether it is in a Chama, whether it is in a company, whether it is in government. Integrity. So I would propose that then Chamas then embed integrity as a key pillar to safeguarding themselves for future and keeping them going for longer, because that is the one ingredient that can break a Chama, and breaks Chamas many times. Yeah.
Those are the pros. There are also cons of investing, or rather savings with a Chama.
Yes.
What are the risks involved?
The risks is especially on the integrity. You could be in a group that you don't know everybody, but you were introduced by a friend, and then just to realize there were rogue guys inside there, and maybe you give them the money and then they don't show up and they don't contribute the next time. So that's likely to happen, because we are governed by trust. So if your members, some of the members break that trust, then you're done. Then you can lose. So those are some of the negatives around Chamas, because it's a trust-based kind of relationship. The other thing is that Chamas just rotate money. So you really are not building or growing your wealth, multiplying your wealth. Rather, you're just moving money from one person to the other one. And money needs to grow. Money needs to work as hard as you work. So even as we start the discipline of saving in Chamas, we need to move to the next step, where we are saying the Chama must then have ways of growing the wealth that they are creating at the base. So I hate to say that the basic Chama just does rotation of money, doesn't grow money, unless you're very disciplined that when you get it, you personally take the initiative to grow, but the Chama is not growing the money.
Talking about financial discipline, we have seen cases of money being lost in Saccos. Saccos is another option, a savings option. But before we delve into that, what are the key benefits of saving and investing in a Sacco? Sacco is one investment or other savings options as well.
Yeah, and Sacco is a formalized Chama, isn't it? It is like, it is the next level of a Chama, which is very well formalized, and again with homogeneous group of people. And now we have seen Saccos evolving to even less homogeneous. Before they used to be Saccos only for certain groups, if it is engineers, if it is bankers, if it is maybe organization. But now we are seeing Saccos opening themselves to multiple, groups of people who are not homogeneous. But the beauty of Saccos is that the structure is formal. So that embeds discipline and governance. So Saccos are well governed. I know we have the micro Saccos and we have the big ones. And the beauty is that if they borrow from the government, because there's a lot of information and governance materials they can get, even small Saccos can have good governance structures which protect the members and protect their wealth.
Okay.
Yeah.
How has technology, maybe from where you sit, modernized Saccos operations, and what are the implications for members?
Technology is a catalyst for most businesses. It's undeniable. And we have seen Saccos adopt technology, including how they communicate to their members, how they keep the records of their members so that the records are much better. Members can access the record of their Sacco savings, and of course, even when they are applying for loans and things like that, they are able to apply for those loans without paper. So they've eliminated the paperwork and the length of time that it takes for you to get a service from the Sacco. So technology is a catalyst by all means, and it's been a beautiful thing to see Saccos embrace technology.
When it comes to regulation, do you think Saccos have been regulated enough to ensure safety of members' savings?
I would say to a large extent, yes, but there's still a lot that is done. I think we're still reeling from the pain of the Saccos that went bust. But I think government has done a lot to ensure that they safeguard the Saccos and they build the rails that protect the Sacco fraternity from such kind of failure. So I would say, yes, there is effort, but obviously the pain of the past happenings lasts very long. You'll appreciate with me, and it is very important for us to know that when you're investing and you go through a painful or a loss, the pain of the loss lasts very long than the joy of a win. So I think we will live with that pain for a bit long before we can forget that some Saccos did go past.
Okay, and we'll come back to that conversation. But first I want to take you to Busia County, where President William Ruto, who is touring the Western region, the tour entered day 2 as he inspects ongoing projects and commissions various projects in the region. Now the head of state is currently in Busia Aggregated Industrial Park in Nasewa Nambale. The multi-billion industrial park is collaboration between the national government and the county government. We head straight there with Achola Simon.
Welcome, Your Excellency. I would like to present
Excuse me.
flagship projects that the government is implementing and set to create 5,000 jobs in the past years.
But the we have discussed the way it was presented time, and we have had discussion very complicated.
So, this one of the projects associated with the roads and drainage, and also the infrastructure and industrial use. There is a power line. We are already arranging Kenya Power. In the next 2 weeks, we'll have a transformer too. Yes. Yes. And then water for industrial use. This post here.
Now the president is supposed after the visit to, or rather after the tour to visit Bungoma County and also launch various projects that are ongoing in that county. He has been in the Western region for the past 3 days. He is on a 5-day tour in the Western region, and our reporter Achala Simon will be giving us details of the launch of the industrial park in Busia County and also the various projects that will be launched later on when he heads to Bungoma County. Now coming back to studio and picking up from where we left on regulation of Saccos and looking at the safety of members' savings. But then again, I want us to look at, Elizabeth, for somebody who might not know how to join a Sacco or how to begin, or rather how to be part of a Sacco. What would you tell, what should they look out for before committing?
Registration. That's the first level. Just get to know, is this Sacco registered by the ministry and by the Saccos Society? That's very important because that will speak to the governance, at least to some extent, saying they are responsible and they are accountable to somebody. So your Sacco should be, when you're joining a Sacco, you should make sure that it is registered under the ministry or under the Saccos Society. So that's really, really critical. And then obviously reviews. At least now we have social media, and we are seeing on social media, people getting to review different Saccos. It's important to go back and read about them and just find out what are people saying about this Sacco. I know sometimes there is malice in some of the comments that happen, but reviews form a really big basis of telling you majority of the people are actually maybe positively speaking about this Sacco, or they're saying, I've never heard about it, and so you need to be more careful about joining such a Sacco. So just do more due diligence around the people behind it. And then the other thing is find out who are the leadership. And again, using internet, it is possible for you to get more information about the leadership of a Sacco, so that you see if this is the leader of the Sacco, to what extent are they negatively maybe mentioned in the media around their integrity, especially what have they done for the nation or for themselves so that they are in this leadership. That should give you comfort, because if you encounter a person with poor quality and mentions in the media, then you have a possibility of saying, I don't want to be in this kind of relationship, and therefore you can avoid a pitfall.
Okay. Talking about integrity, we have seen Kenyans invest or save blindly without even doing the due diligence that you're talking about.
Yes.
How else can Kenyans maybe, do they need a financial expert to be able to advise them on various options that they need to invest in or save?
Good question about financial expert, but even selecting the financial expert is also another job, and you need to be really aware about how do I even select that financial expert. But maybe let's start off by saying, how do you identify the red flags in a Ponzi or a poor investment? Because there are red flags which you can identify as yourself even before you go to the advisor to give you advice. So as a person, you need to identify several red flags that can give you a hint of something is not right about things. The first red flag that you need to identify is when you're promised very high returns with no risk, with guarantees. So things like guaranteed 20% per month, return, that kind of thing. That's just obnoxious. That's a bad flag, and you should be able to pick it out by yourself. The other thing is you're hurriedly being told if you don't get in, you're gonna miss out. This thing of being hurriedly pushed to sign off, that's another bad flag or red flag that you can pick in an investment which is more of a Ponzi. The third thing that you can check out on investments that are not that are bad or poor is the fact that they do not explain exactly how they invest or how they make the money. They just tell you, people are getting paid, just get in. You get the point? Just get in. Everybody's getting paid. Even this person was paid. You've just been given, stories around the returns will be made. Don't ask many questions. They should be able. Investment is very It's very, I would say, driven by certain fundamentals. So if you can't get fundamentals of how money is being made, but you're being promised return, run. Do not wait, you're gonna be washed. Then I think maybe the other one is obviously if you're promised no risk, that there's no risk, this is guaranteed, this is a sure bet. In investments, the theory about investing and returns is about taking risk and the possibility of risk. You should be able to know, okay, what are the risks that I'm taking? The moment I promise you a sure bet in an investment, that's a red flag and you can run away. So those are some of the things that you can actually use as an individual to screen an investment or a product that is being brought to you. When it comes to investment advisors, they are really, really good investment advisors. Today, at least, there is Institute of Certified Investment and Financial Analysts. You can be able to go to their portal. This is a government body that can give you the listing of all the people who are actually certified to do investment analysis and investment advice. Obviously, also going to CMA and checking, is this company that is selling me an investment actually licensed by the Capital Markets Authority? That's a good one, or the Saccos Society. So checks that are really, really glaring. But for investment advisors, ask them about their history, where else have they worked, and probably maybe if they can give you a referral of investors they have been able to help in the journey of investment.
Okay, picking up from where you talked about the Ponzi schemes.
Yes.
Most Kenyans are in a debt trap where they are picking, or rather they are taking a loan from this, let's say, digital mobile loan to pay off another digital mobile loan. How can, even if, we are in the beginning of the year, but they also want to get out of this debt trap, what are the things that you can tell them?
Okay, debt by itself is not bad. And we say that because I work for Absa Bank and we do give debt. So debt is not bad, but it is what type of debt you get into. Consumption debt is dangerous. It's not bad, it's dangerous. It's dangerous to the sense that you're taking money, you're borrowing money to consume, not to build wealth. So the moment you borrow for consumption, then you could be trapping yourself into a vicious circle of debt, like what you're saying. So you pick money from this mobile app, you pay from this other mobile app which you have borrowed, or from, it is Peter to Tom to that kind of thing, which is very dangerous. So how do you get out of this? The first thing you do when if you find yourself in that situation, face it, it's a reality. Ask yourself, how much debt do I have? List your debt, and list the debt based on the rate of interest that you're paying on that debt. List the most expensive to the least expensive. You'll be shocked your mobile debt will be the most expensive, will be at the top, because they're charging maybe a daily rate. Now, once you list that debt, then come up with a strategy to clear that debt or to reduce. Two things that you can do with debt. You can snowball. Snowball meaning you can be kicking the highest, the most costly debt out. You pay the most costly first down like that. So you clear it by just going each of it. If it is a mobile debt, I would say pay your mobile loans quickly. They are expensive, damn expensive. So you need to be very careful. Like that, and then you reduce and you avoid picking new debts. But how do you get that? Do you get to clear that debt? It's you create new income streams, because debt will only be paid with some income that you have, and not by borrowing another person. So either you look at your budget also, and you cut out waste. And we say up to 30% of our income is is not accounted for. So yes, we mentioned the government does not account for 30% of the budget they have, but even individually, I can challenge you. 30% of your income, you cannot account for it, meaning there is an opportunity for you to cut out on waste and hit on your debt and reduce your debt load. As you reduce the debt load, try and work on income streams. Increase your income stream, whether it is a hustle, an extra job, add a new skill so that you can be more employable and more qualified, and you get maybe a higher pay and things like that. So those are some of the strategies you can use to actually reduce your debt, and of course avoid living above your means. By all means, just be honest with yourself, put yourself in the right place so that you do not overspend and continue falling into the trap.
And even as a government, we've been talking about living within our means
Absolutely.
and not going beyond what we cannot be able to afford. That's why also we have found ourselves as a country in a debt trap. But let's say you have your 5,000 extra, or your 4,000 extra, or even 1,000.
Yes.
Is money market fund an option?
Absolutely. In fact, money market, we say it is the most basic investment product a person can get. I know you called it fancy, but I feel like it is the most basic. It is where most people start in. It's where we are as a country. We're becoming, money markets are becoming the in thing, and I love that. Money market will be your option because money market gives you several benefits. Money market allows you to start small, gives you a return on your money as long as the money is invested, gives you an opportunity to access the money if a need arises, whether in whole or in part, which is very good. It allows you to enjoy the economies of scale because your 1,000 alone would not make you a return. But when you're in a money market fund, you're investing together with other like-minded people. So for example, you're in Absa Money Market Fund, we are 15 billion in size. So it means 1,000 shilling and 1,000,000 shillings are going to earn the 12% that the money market fund is giving you. How amazing is that? So it means it qualifies everybody. It gives everybody the same platform. So it's a very fair platform and allows everybody to earn and to enjoy the services of a fund manager who is qualified to go and screen investments and make the investment decision on your behalf. So those are some of the benefits, and I would say every Kenyan, if you have a bank account, the next thing that you must have is a money market account. You cannot stop at banking. You must move to the next level, which is investing in a money market fund, and then we grow from there. We don't stop, we keep growing.
What if you don't have a bank account? Can you invest in a money market fund? And also tell us how you can go about being in a money market fund. Okay.
So let's start with the first one. How do you get into a money market fund? A money market fund is open for everybody. It is it's as simple as, like I said, investment. So you only need your ID and a PIN, and a KRA PIN. Once you have those two, you can be able to open a money market fund. Why do we insist you have a bank account? And I say that I say you must have a bank account because we want to promote savings. The first level of saving is separating yourself with your money. Money in your mobile wallet is so attached to you. It is with you day and night. It's so accessible, you'll easily get it. A bank account gives you, first of all, a way of discipline of separating your money with yourself so that it goes to a provider who is safeguarding it for you instead of keeping it in a wallet. So I would really, really ask that we avoid only having mobile wallets, we have bank accounts. Two, banks, the day you'll want a loan, banks evaluate your bank history, not your wallet. Yes, your wallet sometimes will be considered, but if you have a bank account, you're more credible. So I would say have both, always have a bank account. So then once you open your money market account, create a standing or an automatic way of saving. Don't wait until you spend, then you save. You save before you spend. Many times we spend and then we say, I'll first deal with everything I need and then I save what remains. You should always save before spending. So when you get your income, immediately push your money to your investment account or to your bank account where you're saving, then to your investment account. That way, when you have automated, the discipline checks in. It almost becomes your charmer. You're accountable to yourself. So that's the basic way of dealing with money market funds. Very basic, but very fundamental and very good for yourself and for the economy.
Okay. Earlier on, you talked about a 12% return when you invest in a money market fund in Absa.
Yes.
Then how do money market funds protect investors' money?
Oh, they are regulated. So money market funds are regulated by the Capital Markets Authority, and the regulations govern that. A money market fund must have a founder. So for example, when you come to Absa, we are the founders of Absa Money Market Fund. So there's a founder, there is a fund manager, there is a custodian, And I'll tell you what each of them does so that you see the difference. There is a custodian and there's a trustee. Okay? Now, the founder is a person who registers the fund. That's amazing. But it goes ahead and says the founder, we need to have a fund manager. A fund manager makes the decision, the investment decisions. So, for example, ABSA is also is a founder and the fund manager of the scheme. So we not only founded it, we also manage it because we are a licensed fund manager. That's critical. So a fund manager must be licensed by the Capital Markets Authority. Then you have a custodian. Now, a custodian is a banking entity that holds the assets of the money market fund. And that means that the founder and fund manager do not hold the assets, they only invest on your behalf. The custodian is holding the assets of the fund. Then the trustee comes in. A trustee is a registered entity by CMA again that looks at the welfare of all the members of the fund, because all of us members of the money market fund cannot be going to the fund manager to say what they want. So the trustee is their voice and their eyes and their ears on the ground. So very good structure that protects the membership and makes sure that we invest in the right way. Then CMA has guidelines. So the fund manager doesn't just wake up and do what they want. CMA has given us guidelines of how must a fund manager invest monies of a money market fund. So that means there's a protection because you cannot just wake up and do what you want. So very good governance structure that has been created, that is protective, and that is what should give every Kenyan comfort around money market fund.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are money market funds suitable for people with limited disposable income? And I'm bringing this because of the high cost of living you talked about earlier on, the economic pressures that Kenyans are having as a result of the payslip shrinking over time due to increased taxation and also the high cost of living. You've talked about you can even invest 1,000 shillings. So are money market funds suitable for people with disposable, income rather?
Yes. They are suitable for everybody. They are suitable for everybody because it's a way of putting aside even an emergency fund and allowing you to save whatever little you have, but maintain the discipline and the consistency. And on top of that, beat inflation so that you don't put money under the mattress and lose value. So they are suitable for everybody. So they are not a preserve for the high net worth people. They are suitable for everyone. Yes.
Okay, so do Kenyans need to have different savings account? Let's say for consumption, you have an account for consumption, you have an account for, in case I ask you for money, you have that account that can be able, if you do not have, then you can tell me, there's no money there.
Like wallets.
Yes.
Like a money market can have different wallets. Yeah, that's an evolution that is coming. But definitely, you know, it is very mental. It is the traditional way where we would put a bahasha for thieves, a bahasha for thieves, a bahasha for thieves. But now we're just putting it in a platform and telling you, oh, this wallet is for your emergency, this is for your car, this is for, but mentally it's all your money. So it is good to have those wallets, but at the end of the day, yes, those are very nice goals and they can be done in a money market fund, but you don't have to sweat it. If you're disciplined, when you grow that discipline, you can actually be able to save it in one pot because it's all yours. But yes, the vehicles are nice, the goals are nice.
All right.
Yes.
Now let's talk about treasury bills and bonds, which is another investment option and a savings option. I know when Kenyans hear about treasury bills and bonds, they think it's jargon. They do not know where to go when you want to buy a bill or a bond. I'd like you first of all to give us the difference between treasury bills and bonds for our viewers out there to understand.
Okay, very well. Now, a bill, a bond. A bill basically is a government borrowing. It's government borrowing from us, either from individuals or from corporates. They're borrowing. But a bill will be short term. They're only borrowing, the government is only borrowing for less than 1 year, maximum 1 year. So the government of Kenya ordinarily will borrow money from investors for 30 days, for 91 days, there's no 30 day, it's coming.
All right.
91 days, 182 days and 364 days. So 3 months, 6 months and 1 year. So that's what we call a treasury bill. And the other difference about a treasury bill is you pay what we call in investment jargon, discount. So if, for example, you're lending the government 1,000 shilling, they will say, a treasury bill, you will pay, for example, 900 shillings, and then in 3 months they'll pay you 1,000. That's a discount. So you pay 9. So there's no interest that is paid in between. Your interest is the difference between the amount you'll be paid at maturity and the amount you paid at the beginning. That is how a treasury bill works.
Okay.
Now, a bond, on the other hand, is long-term. So government is borrowing for more than 2 years. Currently, the government of Kenya has borrowed up to 30 years. So there's some bonds which are 30 years. And what a bond does is the bond promises you a fixed interest rate every 6 months. So when you buy a bond, for example, a bond that is, say, 2 years, what government will promise you is that they will pay you 4 times in the year. Then finally, on the last one, they will pay you the interest plus the final maturity amount. So you lend them 1,000 today, they promise you 10%, so they'll pay you 5% in the first 6 months, another 5% like that for 2 years, and finally they pay you back your 1,000. Okay. So you can see there's a cash flow that is coming in a bond. Okay. That's the simplest I can make it.
All right. How can beginners invest in these bills and bonds?
I know that there are many ways you can do it. One of the ways is your bank can help you buy. So you can come to ABSA and we can be able to help you buy your bond or your bill whenever you want. And the good thing is that you get advice. Alternatively, you can open a DAO CSD account. And here I am drumming support for the government. So you can open a DAO CSD account. This is a central bank platform that allows many Kenyans and even in diaspora or around to buy bonds and bills directly from the government. So you can be able to use those two platforms, or even brokers. Brokers, and in this case I am talking about brokerage firms that are in the NSC, Nairobi Securities Exchange, not land brokers. We also have brokers in the exchange.
Okay. I'd like you to explain to us what kind of returns one can expect. Let's say a 91-day treasury bill. Yes. What are the kind of returns that you will give us the details of that after we take a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
Stop being sarcastic.
This kind of excessive praise is cruel. Did you see Miss Leo's face?
I'm just getting a divorce. I'm just getting a divorce as an older woman.
Do they all think that Lao Xue abandoned me?
Why can't it be that I abandon him?
I understand it now. In the end, life is either endure or strive. Enduring in the end still requires striving.
Overtime? Overtime is good.
What does it have to do with you?
Ni mambo gani ambayo sisi huwafunza wadogo zetu ili waweze kupata manufaa katika dunia na kesho akhera?
Ni maneno yenye kupandana, maneno yenye kuzidi, maneno ya ziada. Ni neno moja lakini ina uwingi wake, ina faida mingi ndani yake.
Welcome back, and we apologize for that technical hitch right there. But we've been talking about savings options, and we have talked about 4 of them now in the treasury bills and bonds, and we've talked about the differences between the bills and bonds. And we were asking Elizabeth just before we took a short break the kind of returns one would expect from a 91 treasury bill.
Okay, good question. Now, bills trade every week. So the interest rates on bills change every week. So if you look at last week's auction, you'll find that the Treasury bills are trading below 10%. So the rates are actually single digit. So you'll get just on or about 9%. That is what you get before tax, because there's taxation that is applied on the rate that you get. So there's withholding tax. So that's the kind of return you get. Now, I know many people say 9 is such a miserable return. It is not.
It's an annual.
It's an annual rate, and it's not a miserable
Right.
return. How you ought to look at your return that you're getting from the government is that the government is the best, lender you can get. The person who you can lend to, and you almost have 100% guarantee that they will pay you back. The reason we say that government is the best, borrower of your money or lender for yourself is because government will pay you from their taxes, which you are paying, and government can print money. So we consider government investments as risk-free. So that is why they don't earn a very high return. And I know some people may say, just a few months, the returns were about 17%, 16%. Yes, that was just a period, but ordinarily governments don't pay very high returns.
Okay. What's the minimum amount you can invest?
The minimum amount you can invest directly from when you go through Dow CSD for a treasury bill is 100,000 shillings.
Okay, what if I come to ABSA?
If you come to ABSA, because of the effort and the research and everything we do, we normally buy treasury bills for people from $1 million and above.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are treasury bonds and bills a safer option for long-term savings option, and also compared to other products?
They are the safest. Government securities are the safest kind of products that you can ever have in a portfolio, but they shouldn't be the most rewarding. That is why you find somebody who invested in a plot gets to double their money. But you will not find a government security telling you after 5 years we have doubled your money. No, they just pay you that steady interest rate that they promised you at the beginning, because the risk is very low. So fixed income securities, and that's what we call them, government bonds, fixed income securities, they offer you stability and steady cash flows over the life of the investment, but not capital growth. The capital growth will be limited unless you trade them. Capital growth, for those who trade, they may get capital growth or even capital losses, but if you're buying and holding for the life of the bond, you only get the cash flows that are promised. Unlike other investments which are a little bit more risky and they promise you higher return, maybe even shares. When you buy shares, you can buy today at 10 shillings, and if the company is performing very well and the stock market is doing very well, you could find the share price has gone to 20 bob, and that means you've got 100% return. But in the same breath, the share price can go to 2 shillings and you also lose. So the risk is around the movement of prices in other assets, which we find is a little more limited when it comes to bonds investments.
Okay. Talking about another savings option, that is the high-yielding savings account and fixed deposits. Statistics show that Kenyans are preferring high-yielding savings account rather than low-yielding savings account. And you've seen the fixed account income, or rather the high-yielding savings account becoming popular and cashing in, hitting to about 2 trillion shillings as of July 2024. But before we get into the math, what is the difference between high-yielding savings account and a fixed deposit account?
A high-yielding savings account is an account that has restrictions in terms of how soon you can, how often you can get the money out. So basically it is like your current account, but what they put there, the bank will say, you cannot draw down from this account. So you have a restriction. Maybe they tell you, you can only withdraw once from that savings account or none, so that you earn the return. Otherwise, if you be going there like it's a current account, no interest is accrued to your account. So that's what is a high-yielding savings account. Now, when it comes to fixed deposit, that is a structure. That is an investment, almost like an investment product, where you're entering a contract with a bank and saying, Bank X, let's say ABSA, have my money for 1 year, for a contract of 1 year, and you shall pay me, say, 9%. That way, you get, you've entered a contract, you have promised the bank that you're going to stay, or you're leaving the money there for a specified period of time, 1 year, 6 months, or even 2 years. And the bank has also promised you that for the period you have left the money with us or given the money to us, we are going to pay you X% for that period. So that's the difference. So the current account, you're the one who determines, but the rule, the terms and conditions are very clear about the current, the high yielding savings account, and the terms of a fixed deposit are also very clear.
So terms and conditions of both,
they will apply.
They will apply.
Yes. Okay.
Then why are fixed deposits account becoming so popular? As I had earlier indicated,
yes.
Data showed that 2 trillion shillings for the CBK has been saved in fixed savings account.
Okay. From individuals, I think from 2022, we've been on a high interest rate environment where interest rates rose all the way to levels of about 18.5%. So very high interest rates. And for that reason, people being wise, because they are rational beings, they would prefer to lock the high rates, and that is why you saw them taking the fixed deposits. Another thing that could have contributed and may have contributed to the high fixed deposits in the bank is the alignment of money market funds and the growth in money market funds, because money market funds are by regulations only allowed to save in short-term instruments that are safe. So money markets fund, I think, have grown threefold since 2020. So all that money, majority of that money is in fixed deposits. So you'll see them also promoting the growth of fixed deposits in our banks. So it is institutions and also individuals, and the environment was just perfect for it.
So you advise Kenyans to pick either?
Yes, but the tide has changed.
Okay,
now fixed deposits are not earning those very high returns, so you'll find people will start reallocating to higher risk instruments, because now Treasury bill has gone to 9. So if you go and check your fixed deposit with your bank, you will find that the fixed deposits have also come to single digit, and that means if you're looking for wealth, you're going to have to reallocate risk from short-term investments to longer-term investments. So you might find that that shift will happen now, and we expect it to happen.
Okay. Yeah. Now, talking about pension schemes, because time is not on our side, we're seeing contribution-based plans like the National Social Security Fund or private pension schemes being talked about all over the country, and also the government also coming up with their own, the Hustler Fund. It has also a savings option. How can Kenyans maximize benefits from this private pension funds and also the National Social Security Fund?
First of all, that's mandatory. Pension now is mandatory in Kenya. It wasn't mandatory, so that's a good thing. And we celebrate that policy that has forced people to save for their retirement. The way you can take advantage is, one, if you are already in a pension scheme, please do not touch your pension benefits. Keep them for your retirement. Your old age requires funding, and that is the money that will take care of you when you are, old. So do not touch them. Then the other thing is to make sure that your investments are being invested in the most optimal way. Keep your provider accountable for the returns they are giving you, so that you get optimal returns, and I say optimal because of it's a choice of the assets that they invest in, optimal returns throughout the life, because the beauty of investing is around the length of time you invest, holding it. So if you're investing for 20 years, you have better gains than somebody who invests for very short term. And the other beauty is, of course, the returns that you're making from that investment. Other benefits from the pension is that there are embedded benefits, things like post-retirement medical. You can be able to start saving aside for your post-retirement medical fund. That's something that you can take advantage of. One, because now government has given tax benefits for anybody who is saving towards a post-retirement benefit. So if you put aside even 5,000, you will get tax exempted for that amount. So it reduces your tax that you're paying back to the government. And then the other thing is obviously housing. There are benefits towards accessing housing using your retirement benefits, but the rules of the trust deed and rules of the scheme will apply.
Okay.
Yeah. So many benefits.
Yeah. Now, 2 years ago, the government did increase the NSSF contribution from 200 to 2,160 shillings per month.
Yes.
Do you think the previous amount was insufficient? The amount is supposed to actually to double in February.
Yes.
And do you support the move despite the shrinking payslip?
Yes, I support the move. Sometimes you have to do the hard thing and make the hard decisions. It's unfortunate that it came during a very difficult season, but it is the right policy for the people and for the government to have done it. Countries around us in East Africa did it a long time ago. We are just late comers in this party. So it is a good thing. And the increase is just 6%. So they are only taking 6% of your income and putting it aside for your retirement. It is to fight old age poverty. If you look at the government, budgeting around people who are 70 and above who need support from the government, it can tell you that we are building to a crisis if we continue doing things the same way, and we'll have many old people who government cannot be able to support. And so old age poverty is something that needs to be fought when you are young. So it really means a lot. It maintains your dignity later in future, because you can imagine working all your life and then later on you're a pauper. It really takes away your dignity. So pension maintains your dignity and preserves you and gives you longevity, because you have something to live on, especially financial capability. So I like it. It is just that the season was difficult, but I think if you put the right lenses, you will actually appreciate what government has done.
Okay, moving on to other alternatives, or rather for the informal sector, especially the pension schemes for informal sector. We see they've been left out, but also we saw NSSF roll out a haba where a scheme where you can be able to save as much as 25 shillings or minimum 25 shillings.
Yes.
Is this the right move for the informal sector?
Yeah, and yes, for the informal sector, it's very important to think about your retirement, because all of us will get that. Retirement is not moving out of job. It's just your body getting to that stage where you will not be able to do what the economic activity you've been doing. So getting into a pension is very important. The habas, the individual pension plans. Now there are individual pension plans. You don't need an employer to get into a pension scheme. Even in ABSA we have that. You can be able to start contributing according to your ability. So that's really, really important. And everybody needs to consider having a pension plan in place just to safeguard and to take advantage of the tax benefits that come with it.
Okay. Yeah. What of products combining life insurance and savings, offering returns over time?
Yeah, good products. Insurance safeguards us because we face the, life can turn anyway. You can be incapacitated, you can die. And so insurance-wrapped products have a place of their own, and it's important for you to consider, because when you have an insurance-wrapped product, what you're doing is that you're also safeguarding the next generation when you're not there, meaning that you're going to take care of your child even if you were to die. So even in your demise, the people you love will continue enjoying life as though you were still alive. So you're protecting them. So protecting even the next generation. So they have their place. It's a risk management as much as it is an investment product.
Okay.
Yeah.
How do these plans work? And are they worth considering? And what should Kenyans look out before committing?
Yeah, they work. They work because they give you a return, what they call bonuses, but they also protect you, give you life covers that allow you or your loved ones to get paid in the event that of your demise. So they have benefits which are double-edged, where you can get the bonuses. If it matures during your life, you get the full amount plus the bonuses. But should you die before the maturity of your product, they have that cover which allows your loved ones to access them later on.
Okay.
Yeah.
As we wrap up, I would like to hear your final remarks. I know there are various savings options we have not talked about. There's real estate investment is a lot. And I'd like you to touch on that as well as we wrap up as well.
I'd like to say that investing saving and investing is a critical part of your journey, and you ought to start thinking about it at a very early age. I think empowering our children and our young ones and our Gen Zs early enough is one way of winning it, because then you embed the discipline very early. It's not something you start when you are 50. So my call to action is start wherever you are. It's also not a preserve for the wealthy, so don't wait until you earn the 6-figure salary. Start with whatever little you have, build the discipline, and then even when you get that a lot of money, you will be able to even go further. The other thing is that empower yourself with knowledge. There's a lot of knowledge, especially now in the internet age, for you to empower yourself and get to know much more than what we could have known when we did not, only things were in books. So take time, learn a lot, and be curious about investments, and of course ask the right questions before making any investment decision.
Okay.
Yes.
But if you need a financial expert,
please come to us.
We can come to you.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you, Elizabeth Irungu, talking to us about savings and investment. And as she has rightly put it, savings and investing aren't just for the wealthy or the financial literate. They are for everyone. And for Charamas and Saccos, to money market funds, to treasury bills and bonds, and to emerging options like digital platforms, which we will touch on another day with Elizabeth here, and also agribusiness, there is something for everyone, no matter your income level. And as Elizabeth Irungu has highlighted, building a savings culture isn't just about the tools, it's about financial discipline, planning, and understanding the options available for you. We put a cap on the 1 hour conversation we've been having about the various savings options, and we take you now to Tech One with Alan Aoko.
Cynthia Wamboi Njoroge is an upcoming professional welder at Toolkit, a digital social enterprise training in technical skills and welding, or what is commonly known as Jua Kali. But Wamboi tells us this is not typical Jua Kali, because the use of virtual reality has enhanced her grasp of welding techniques and has also debunked myths related to blending learning programs that are complemented by technology.
With time, it's not that hard. It's easy. As you go, as you continue practicing, it's so much easy. You gain your muscle memory. So the moment when you join the workshop, you are able to maintain your memory and also the stability during welding. When you start with the VR, it's much easier when you come to the workshop.
Wamboi is not alone. Her colleague Peter Kuria Mungai cites time and unique upskilling as the reason for choosing VR in welding.
I started with virtual reality, where we are engaged in a controlled, stimulated environment, the same as a workshop, but it's in a controlled, stimulated environment, where I gained a skill in virtual reality, and I really passed. I had a pass mark of 89.
The learning experience begins here, using a wearable headset, a unique handheld controller, customized to mimic a welding gun. The controller has a series of buttons which helps the user select options in the virtual world, while the headset acts as the wearer's eyes in this digital reality. These devices take you to a virtual world safely projected on computers, which display what the VR wearer of the devices sees and controls in the virtual world.
So as you can see on your screen, he's welding. So you are able to select the required sample. You adjust the parameters, you set the parameters, you set the current, you set the gas. Like I've said, MIG welding entails the use of gas. So once he or she is ready to weld virtually, there are all the welding specifications that are required. This one will give you the experience of the real MIG welding gun. Yes, the weight of the gun. Okay, so this one acts as a counterweight.
However, as groundbreaking as it may be, there are still major issues to consider.
The biggest challenge and the call for first to the government is model the curriculum for assessment to be able to catch higher levels such that our trainees are qualified internationally.
The appeal for these tools in various needs seem not to be waning as technology continues to make work easier.
Virtual reality environments like the ones we've seen here for welding safeguard against a lot of costs overruns, especially when it comes to safety and the overall cost of programs like this. And now experts say that this can be replicated in other industries like this one. Alan Aoko, Tech One.
Welcome back. You are still watching Biz Check. My name is Wairimu Njenga, and we get into the second hour of Biz Check, and we'll be discussing entrepreneurship, the current state of entrepreneurship. That will be the discussion for the next 1 hour. And my guest in studio is Vincent Otieno, who is the Regional Director, Ashoka East Africa. Vincent, welcome to our studios.
Thank you, Wairimu.
I want us to start with entrepreneurship and the role of education in addressing unemployment. But before we get into that, I'd like you to give us an overview of the Kenya's unemployment rates, especially among graduates, and the role of entrepreneurship could play in addressing this challenge.
Thank you. That's a good question. So I think it's common knowledge that we are in a very difficult situation when it comes to employment. This is one in terms of the right skills for employment, to access employment. Let me put it this way: employability is just sort of a nightmare. So the skill set is a big question, whether we are graduating people with the right skill set, and then secondly also the job opportunities, whether are we looking at the right places to create job opportunities. So I think that's pretty much the situation right now. So you're seeing more and more people falling off the sort of economic zone because they don't have means of getting into employment or establishing their own jobs. And this has to do everything with how we are prepared all the way from growing up. We usually like to look at it from parenting, is the kind of parenting that we're experiencing, enabling people to be innovators, to be creative, to think outside the normal job opportunities. Then we also look at education. Is our education system really empowering students to be creative, to be entrepreneurial? And of course, then also you're looking at the current setup of employment, as it's still so much based on factory and industrial age, such that there are no more opportunities being created. There's no more innovation within the available opportunities. Mm-hmm. So it's entire pipeline, value chain of growing up, learning, and work experience.
And we'll delve into each option that you have talked about, but I know I should have done this before we kicked off, but I want to know, Ashoka East Africa, what is all that all about? And also, as the Regional Director, tell us more about Ashoka.
So Ashoka is a global organization. We are a global NGO that supports social entrepreneurs. So we started in the early 80s. And the idea here was, the founder, Bill Drayton, came across individuals who were really creative in the way they were solving for societal challenges. They were not running their ventures in the traditional charity, format or model, but also they were not the traditional enterprises. So what they were doing, these were individuals who were mission-driven. They were really restless in finding solutions for different challenges across different sectors. But at the same time, they had figured out sustainability, for their ventures. So that's how social entrepreneurship came to be. So we are the organization that is credited for, championing social entrepreneurship and popularizing it. Okay. Of course, right now there's so many players who have come on board. And so in Ashoka, we find these individuals and support them. We support them to scale their innovations. So when you find ideas that are really new, ideas that have the potential to change systems, either bring about new policies, change market dynamics, change mindset, or even just, bring on board, bring into the economic fold people who are marginalized, we support them to scale those innovations. Okay. So either transferring their impact or pivoting to new areas, but basically supporting them as individuals. Because we believe the best idea is an idea that is in the hands of a social entrepreneur. Because essentially, they are mission-driven. They want to make sure that If it's access to education, they're thinking, what do we need to change within the system to make sure that this happens? So it's not just creating more schools, but is it something to do with policy? Is it something to do with mindset? Is it something to do with the market dynamics? So that's where they focus on. And so we have about 4,500 across the world, leading social entrepreneurs. And in East Africa, we have 100. And there are many examples that I could give of who these people are.
Okay.
But what we do celebrate them a lot also because they give us an indication of where the world is heading. So that's why we got to a point as an organization, we realized not everyone is going to be a social entrepreneur. And this is very much, said a lot, like not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur. But from working with these leading social entrepreneurs, we've been able to distill some very powerful insights on what makes them tick, what makes them be the kind of people that they are. And so these are the insights we're calling changemaker skills. So right now, yes, we want to get more social entrepreneurs and support them because, again, you might know this, social entrepreneurship is a field that is gaining momentum. Even companies, INGOs, corporate world governments are really rethinking their model of engaging society. So for corporates, it's not just profit for the sake of profit. They're also thinking not just the shareholders, they're thinking stakeholders. And these are insights that have been gleaned from social entrepreneurs.
When you talk about social entrepreneur, who are you referring to?
So I'm referring to individuals who are passionate about social issues or political issues or economic issues and are thinking, first and foremost, not what I can make out of this in terms of profit, if I'm selling service or goods, but they're thinking, how do I change systems to make sure that, again, going back to that example of education, to make sure that everyone has access to education. Do we need to change our policies? Do we need to change mindset so that people see education as a norm or a way of education as a norm? So basically, the difference between a social entrepreneur and traditional entrepreneurs is really, thin. The major one is basically because they are mission-driven. They are restless. They don't rest until they see change. I'll give you an example. Okay. Someone like David of Synergy, who is working in the informal settlement area, thought about sanitation, as an issue. And so for him, it was not just setting up an enterprise that then would focus on making profit or making money, but really how do we change the entire system? Another example I'll give you is Anne Jogu, also a social entrepreneur and also an Ashoka Fellow, through the work that she was doing with CREO, which then ended up being the Sexual Offences Bill. She was, yes, addressing domestic violence, gender-based violence, but also thought this is something that should not just be addressed at the surface level. We need to have a policy that then seeks to address it. So that's a social entrepreneur. Right. So you're thinking people who are coming up with systems, very entrepreneurial, very innovative, very creative, and their desire is to get to that level where we have market systems that are working, we have policies that are working, we have mindset shift where it's needed, and also we're bringing in those who are marginalized or those who are outside, the formal fold into the fold. Okay.
Now looking at the current state of entrepreneurship and how you are playing a role in supporting entrepreneurship, why do you think many Kenyan graduates are hesitant to venture into entrepreneurship despite the high rate of unemployment in the country?
Yeah, so we talk to many of these entrepreneurs and just observing them as they grow, as they start. Entrepreneurship is not for everyone. It's hard, and basically because there's a certain mindset that is needed and also a certain skill set. So the reason why graduates and many people really are hesitant to get into entrepreneurship is, one, the environmental barriers. I mean, it's not a very, there's much more that needs to be done. There's a lot that has been done, but there's much more that needs to be done. So we need to look at our policies. Are there policies that are encouraging entrepreneurs? Are there policies that are encouraging innovation, right? So we need to look at the incentives within the environment. But I think also most importantly, we have to really question ourselves in terms of preparation. Are we preparing the next generation of entrepreneurs? Is our schooling system, and like I said earlier, is the way we are parenting, is the way we are training, and is the way the existing entrepreneurs are operating supportive of graduates who would want to venture into entrepreneurship. So one, it's hard, just the environment. It's hard to navigate it. I mean, there's so many barriers, like I said. A lot has been done, but a lot more needs to be done. And you hear this a lot from the social entrepreneurs. But at the same time, there's a lot also to do with mindset and skill set, right? So we are an environment, I mean, a country where I think we've taken long to sort of transition from this factory model of society where you go to school, you want to graduate, you want to get into employment, right? Not thinking, I need to set up something. And again, also, there's so many opportunities, even within the barriers that I'm talking about, the tough landscape, there's so many opportunities. But it also takes a certain skill set, or thinking to be able to see those opportunities and tap into those opportunities.
Okay. And we'll talk about whether we are preparing the next generation of entrepreneurs when we bring in the topic of the competency-based curriculum. But before we go into that, you have mentioned key challenges that social entrepreneurs and also young entrepreneurs are facing. Do you think the policies, and you're best placed to tell us, being in the industry, is supporting entrepreneurship, the policies in place, the environment, the business environment, the economic pressures that Kenyans are facing right now, the high cost of living, is that supporting entrepreneurship?
So we live in a world that is really, I mean, characterized by change and accelerating change, for that matter. So I think there are a few things that need to happen for us to get to a point where we can say we have it all, okay? And that's also not easy because the changes that are happening, change everything. So if you're thinking about policy, if you set up a policy now and it will look like this is the right policy to support entrepreneurs, to support emergence of new sort of business opportunities, that might become irrelevant, in a couple of years because of, technology, for instance, and AI. Let me just say the generative tech. It's changing a lot, fast-paced change. So I'd say there's a lot that is happening, but at the same time, we are playing catch-up a lot, right? So at the moment, I think with the new emerging business opportunities, just revolving around leveraging technology and also just the reality of the changing culture, the changing perception of, so many things, we really need to look at our policies at a very fast pace.
Okay, then what kind of financial support do young entrepreneurs need? And are there sufficient funding opportunities in Kenya?
So even going back to the initial question you're asking, what are the barriers? I think funding is a major barrier. Okay. We did a mapping a couple of years ago just to identify where these emerging change makers, as we call them, or entrepreneurs are, and also their challenges. And funding was one of them. But also just in relation to funding, we realize many of them also is because they don't know what options are out there. And they don't know what options would fit what they want to do. Do I need to access loan? Do I need to, prepare myself to be investor ready to get, investors into my business? So there is just a bit of lack of awareness. And again, that is also because a lot is concentrated within the major cities, but more so in Nairobi. So you find there's amazing young entrepreneurs outside this city, but they don't have access to this information, one. And also they're not, the proximity to the networks where they can get to access this information is also not there. So I would say there are opportunities, there are funding opportunities, there are different funding instruments, but on the other side also there's lack of awareness of where these are because they are concentrated within the city and also within a very small network probably, but it's also not sufficient. Again, looking at the number of challenges that entrepreneurs would want to address, the funding that is available is not sufficient for that. And especially if you're thinking of really sustainable solutions. You're not thinking here just, want to run a business or want to run something because you're doing it. I have to really think through what is this, what is the impact, what is the system level change that I'm looking at. And so to find funders who are able to think with you like that is also not easy.
Okay. Earlier on, you did mention you're supporting about 100 social entrepreneurs in the country. what challenges have they told you they are facing, especially with this business environment that we are in as a country?
Yeah, for the entrepreneurs, they're handed actually those who make it through a very rigorous process that we have. I mean, you can imagine globally we only have 4,500 plus, and these are individuals who have gone through a very rigorous process, and we have confirmed that they have ideas that can actually transform the world. So whether it's in agriculture, education, every sector, you name it. So the support that we're giving them, like I mentioned, is for them to scale those innovations. And what the challenge that they're mentioning, like I said, funding always appears because it seems like there's never sufficient funding. But also
but you're funding this.
So the 10, so the 10, what we do actually, we usually have a stipend. We give stipend for 3 years to make sure that the social entrepreneur is not moonlighting, trying to do so many things. We want them to focus on building that idea. But also the policy, I think now in Kenya, because we have this the new PBO Act, which seems to be very friendly and addresses some of the issues that they've had when it comes to policy. Like, you're registered across so many different legal regimes. You're a trust, you're a foundation, you are company limited by guarantee. So it was really hard to crystallize, like, where do you whom do you approach to access fund? Okay. If you go to, let's say, an impact investor, they'll say, okay, but what you are doing is not really likely to bring me returns, right? So until recently, when investors have also started looking at the social impact as a way of return. But that's one major one. And also the other major issue for them has been just the lack of awareness, what exactly, what is the difference between a traditional entrepreneur and a social entrepreneur? So it's a term that is not new, but also kind of new because people are getting used to it now. But for a long time, they've been treated as, people have viewed social entrepreneurs as charity, but they do say, no, we're not charity. We also figure out sustainability and, we make a profit. But our core is on social impact. So funding, lack of knowledge of what social entrepreneurs do. The third one is also networks, like I mentioned. The networks are domiciled in very few spaces. I mean, in Nairobi, let's say Mombasa, Kisumu, the cities. But there's so many others who are outside that. So accessing this network where the movers and shakers occupy is a major challenge to them. Okay. And then, of course, where we have incredible innovations that are working, just transferring impact from one place to another is quite a challenge to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you've talked of lack of awareness, funding, policies, and also network. Yeah. Now, looking at the role that should private institutions and investors play in supporting startups. Before we get into that, I'd like to hear your thoughts on the startup bill that is in, actually it has now gone back to, it is in the president's office now. What are your thoughts about the bill?
I think the bill is well thought. I mean, it does advance to a very great extent, some of the issues that have hindered the growth of the sector. Like we say most of the time, it's not in the paper, it's not in the bill, it's in the implementation. So for me, that's what I'm looking at. But really, very optimistic. I mean, it's a ray of hope that this will unlock the potential of the sector. And in so many ways, this does, if it does that, I mean, contributes a lot to the government's agenda as well, and the SDGs. So I'd say it's a really, really, really good move. And from the way it looks like, the unlocked potential, seems to be having a way out. But then also the other thing that I wanted to mention in terms of just the challenges is the skill set, because I mean, I would do them injustice if I didn't mention that. Like we were saying, are we graduating individuals with the right skill set? So the one thing that is missing also that they find a challenge is getting the right skills, getting the right skills for the sector, because you need people who are, number one, like really empathetic, also like really exercise cognitive empathy as a way of life, because that's the only way we get to advance the common good of all. They're also struggling in finding people who understand sophisticated teamwork, so people who can work beyond just their functional teams, people who can work beyond just their sector. They're also struggling to find people who are creative problem solvers, so people who can think of a solution for something beyond the surface value, but the root cause of it. And then also they're looking at and struggling to find people who exercise what we call new leadership, a collaborative leadership. So there are very specific skill set that they're looking for. And of course, then there's the technical skills and the digital skills. And for us also, we've gotten to a point where we are realizing for this to really happen, for the sector to thrive, and for us to outmatch challenges with entrepreneurial solutions, we will need to combine the emerging digital skills with the change maker skills. And of course, you can also have some technical skills.
Okay. Now, linking that to the current education system, do you think it supports or it prepares graduates or students adequately for entrepreneurship?
So, when this question comes across a lot, most of the time people say, but we do have entrepreneurs who went through the same education system, and here they are. But yeah, so I think there are two narratives that kind of play out when it comes to education. There are those who are it's not doing what it's supposed to do. There are those who are it's doing what it's supposed to do. For me, the insightful sort of approach is just to understand the education system. Where does it come from? Like, what was the basis for this? What is the philosophy that underpins our education system? Worldwide, I mean, there's a consensus that this education system was supposed to produce factory workers. So people will get into a job setting and do as they're told, follow rules. And that has become irrelevant. Not so much education, but also just the reality of the world. It's no longer about following rules. It's about finding where the next innovation is going to come from, getting to understand, being very analytical, understanding trends and patterns, and being able to, paint a bigger picture and a strategic picture out of that. And if you look at it that way, that is what the environment is demanding, then you can easily see the gaps that are there in our education system.
Okay. Now, talking about the gaps, you tell us the specific gaps that exist in higher education institutions' approach to entrepreneurship in Kenya.
So for many higher education institutions and just entire education pipeline, there is an awareness and there is an acknowledgement that we need to have more entrepreneurial generations coming through. But the spaces to do that are not there, right? So if you let's say a typical class setting where the learning is teacher-centered, not so much, or lecturer-centered, not so much, and the learner-centered, right? That is the first disconnect. I mean, that has to be addressed, And then also the other thing is relevance of what is being taught, yeah? So if we are stuck in, teaching people about the things of, and not to say they're not relevant, but if you're stuck in teaching in ways that, enables you to be a perfect employee within a setup that is set to succeed by rules, by like a linear thinking, because of this will happen, then this will happen, then that is not the kind of education system that is going to produce entrepreneurs. I think there's need for more kind of real-life, hands-on practice, maybe project-based learning, for instance, in our education system. And in a very big way, that is something that CBC is, sort of is tending to address. And again, there is always the intention and also the application. So we prepared adequate teachers with the requisite skills to be able to dispense this new education curriculum in the way that it should be done. And then are we connecting this also to industry? So I think there is need for, yes, let's figure out the pedagogy and the styles within the education system, but also have very strong academia and industry linkages. Because that real life experience, I think, does get a lot of difference, when it comes to thinking entrepreneurial generation or innovative generation. And again, also just thinking a more collaborative and a more cohesive ecosystem for, startups or for entrepreneurs. At the moment, there's a lot of silos, where people are doing very brilliant things within their spaces, but there's no linkages, there's no communication. And going back to why, we are saying one of the skills that we really need to inculcate is this collaborative leadership. Because if we are excelling, let's say, for instance, right now with the tech, one of the things that we need to do is to really think the change around cultural values. What does tech really mean? And a media house, journalists like you, have a very big role to play. But are we having sufficient, conversations and meaningful conversations with people who are coming up with these technologies, those who are leveraging technologies to come up with solutions? Are you having, those kind of conversations to really help shift the narrative? Because again, when it comes to tech, for instance, you'll find that, again, here there are two kind of narratives. There are those who are really romanticizing, idealizing tech as, the solution for everything. And this also other narrative of doom and gloom, like, okay, we don't know what kind of kids, children are going to, like what kind of people we're going to have in the next, 5 or 10, 15 years where they're AI powered, right? So neither of these narratives is entirely true. It's not about doom and gloom, and also it's not about tech being the know-it-all, like everything is going to be sorted out by tech. But to change the cultural values around our understanding of what tech is all about, it will take, publishers, media houses like you, journalists like you, to be able to shift that narrative. And that will mean having constant conversation with the
and that's a challenge I'll take up as a journalist. Yeah. But looking at what you mentioned about the competency-based curriculum, and I know we'll talk broadly about that, but should entrepreneurship be introduced as a mandatory subject in all tertiary institutions in Kenya?
I would say the culture of entrepreneurship should be. I mean, it's a necessity. It's something that if anyone is not thinking about it, then they're being left out. But also I'm saying that cognizant that, there are people who understand entrepreneurship differently. There are people who understand entrepreneurship purely as a way of transacting, goods and services. And there's a school of thought also that understands entrepreneurship, and there's a lot of research that has been done in that area as a way of thinking. So for me, I would say as a way of thinking, we definitely need to do that, because if we are going to innovate for the next world, for the next epoch. I mean, because then we know the world is changing. I mean, from agrarian revolution, industrial revolution, information age. I mean, things are changing. So if we're going to do that, those changes, those who master those changes and those who excel in those changes are people who are entrepreneurial. So then this ought to be a way of life. So higher learning institutions need to have this, not just as a vision, not just as an objective, but they should have, there should be spaces where their culture speaks to that, their systems speak to that, their processes speaks to that. Because it's one thing to be very aspirational to say we want to graduate entrepreneurial students, or we want to have a generation of entrepreneurs. But if our culture is not supportive of that, if our systems are not supportive of that, if our processes are not supportive of that, it will only remain an aspiration. So I think because it has to start somewhere. So when we are looking at higher education institutions, it's the same thing also with saying, hey, the employers also need to place more emphasis, place more premium on entrepreneurial skill set. So yes, you are, you graduate, first class. The question also should be, do you have a portfolio that, we can see you being entrepreneurial? And that's pretty much what we do also with these social entrepreneurs, because by the time someone ends up to be an Ashoka Fellow, we have really determined that they have a journey of iterating, solutions, trying to figure out solutions from an early age. Okay.
Let's talk of agrarian revolution and industrial revolution and the new emerging technologies that we are seeing. How can entrepreneurs use such AI and the rest to support entrepreneurship?
Yeah, so, technology is now becoming like, the operational system for everything almost. So entrepreneurs who first and foremost really need to think about deploying technology for the common good of all. Because if that is not the premise of where it's starting, then we're going to get stuck somewhere. Like I said, the two narratives where we glorify tech to be the solution for all, and also the doom and gloom. So I think what entrepreneurs need to do really is, one, to push for policies, for policies that are sort of going to make it possible for tech to thrive in a meaningful, responsible way. And also, I would say, entrepreneurs also need to pay attention to our sort of justice system. You know, should we have, and the question that I keep on asking myself, should we have like self-correcting measures within the justice system when it comes to deployment of tech? Then also entrepreneurs really need to think about the values that I talked about, the cultural values. What are some of the values that we need to change so that then we understand, you know, the place of tech in today's world and, you know, the world that is sort of taking shape. And then also, of course, when it comes to the economics of things, I mean, that's also a place where entrepreneurs need to pay attention to, because we see there is a lot of potential and, in fact, a lot of shifts, a lot of you know, transformation is happening within the economic space, and for that to be really truly meaningful, I think the other thing that entrepreneurs should be asking themselves, are they deploying this in such a way that everyone is coming on board, or is it creating, you know, some inequality? So I think they're paying attention to where tech has really accelerated change and, you know, the new things. There should be also a question of, is it advancing inequality or is it closing the gaps?
Okay, growing up, the education system for Generation X, not the Z is a different whole thing to talk about, but growing up it was all about employment. You go through the education system to be employed, but here we are talking about now entrepreneurship, employing yourself. So in today's world, when you look at the curriculum-based, competency-based rather curriculum and entrepreneurship, is this the direction that as a country we should head? And looking at the challenges that we are facing in the CBC, in the rollout of CBC, what are the chances that we are likely to succeed with the rollout of the CBC curriculum?
So the challenges are always bound to happen. You know, when something is new, you're testing it out, it's, you know, very early stages, challenges are bound to happen. It's how we, you know, overcome those challenges. It's how we spot those challenges and address them quickly, right? In the sense of this is the way to go, yes, that is the way to go. We need to, I see like a lot of projects and things that they're doing in school is very much related to real world experience. Sometimes, you know, people ask questions like, you know, how relevant is this? They should be more on the tech side, and that should pretty much be the focus. But then we forget that, you know, the hands-on experience, the exposure to what is actually happening out there is what will build their entrepreneurial insight, you know, because everything that they're doing should focus on helping them understand what are the world challenges, what are the opportunities out there, and how do you tap into those opportunities, and also how do you build, you know, something. So I'd say it's the way to go. But when it comes to the challenges, if we can address the challenges faster, if we can sort out the challenges faster, then definitely this is the way to go. And like I said, it's something that the world is demanding. You find that you know, employers are now looking for first-class employees, and you know, and if you distill what that means, it's not really just the academic excellence. It's in the ability to innovate. It's in the ability to be creative. It's in the ability to be entrepreneurial. And you're not going to get that on paper. You have to learn how to do it one way or the other.
And it has been touted as the CBC as a solution to unemployment. Do you think it is aligned to the needs? I don't know you've mentioned that, but do you think it's aligned to the needs of the job market and entrepreneurship?
If you look at the job market, like I said, I mean, in a world of, you know, accelerated change, what sets one company or organization apart from the other is just their level of innovation, the extent to which they innovate, the extent to which they are paying attention to the effect of what they're doing to the planet and the people. Okay, so that is what is setting them apart. And what kind of talent are they looking for, or skill set are they looking for to do that? They're basically skill sets that are competent, right? So when you think about it that way, there is a demand for that. There's a demand for that, and these are demanding, you know, the employment or the labor side of things is demanding for this skill set and talent and insight, basically because they want to keep up with the competition, and not necessarily competition amongst themselves, but competition with an emerging world, a world where you're being held accountable, you know, like real time, right? So you want to make sure that you have talent that understand what needs to be done to innovate around your product or your services, so that then you are actually positioned to benefit the people, you're doing the right thing with the people, you're doing the right thing with our planet, right? So in that respect, yes, this is it's the right way to go.
Okay. What of the framework, the CBC framework? And you've talked of challenges. Yes, there are challenges there, and there is need for improvement as government rolls out the CBC curriculum. But for job seekers out there right now who did not go through this kind of a program, where their mindset is on, I need to be employed to be able to make a living, what would you tell them?
They told, like you asked earlier, I think it's just for generations. It's always been that way. I mean, even now, you know, with the new reality, they're also still very much stuck on preparing, you know, their children, you know, their students to be absorbed in work, like to go work somewhere. And that's going to happen. That's still going to be there, and it's a very strong narrative. But what I would say is the opportunities to be absorbed are shrinking because obviously, you know, the digital reality, the AI, the tech is really taking away so much of, and again, no gloom, no doom, but it's taking away so much of the manual jobs, right? There'll still be demand for, I mean, there'll still be opportunities for people to be employed. So I'd say, yes, think of that as positioning yourself, preparing yourself to be employed, and, you know, that's a good thing. But at the same time, position yourself with the skill set that will enable you to thrive, you know, outside employment. Okay? So it's just the ability right now for the generation, now generation Alpha, I think, then Beta, and even Gen Z. So it's about acquire these digital skills. Okay, this will enable you. This will probably give you get, you know, an employer attention. Like, okay, you have these skills. But what will propel you, what will make you excel, even beyond that space, will be the change maker skills. Are you able to work with others in a way that, you know, builds common good for all? Are you able to work with others in a way that respects the resources of the world? Are you able to work with others, you know, and also lead others in a way that, you know, empowers them, like create spaces for them to also find their leadership brilliance? Are you able to creatively think about the challenges that we are seeing? Because these challenges will always be there, and they will compound, or there will be new ones. But the only way to outmatch these challenges will be to have enough people with these requisite skills, the change maker skills and then the digital skills to excel, either as a first-class employee with this innovative entrepreneurial mindset and skills, but also as an entrepreneur. Because even entrepreneurs who are succeeding right now, you'll see if you look at, you know, like the big tech companies, unfortunately, sort of controlled by a few. But if you look at their stories, if you look at what they're talking about, they're common, you know, threads that they're weaving. You know, they'll talk about the need to be able to work in teams. They'll talk about the need to be able to think about what is happening in the other sector and how this relates to the technology that you are coming up with. They're talking about the need to really pay attention to, you know, what's happening across the world in terms of the planet. But, you know, that can be debated to what extent are they doing that. You know, they're also thinking about, like, creatively, you know, coming up with solutions.
Okay. Yeah. With the current business environment, we have seen multinationals exit the country. We have seen businesses and companies closing down, or rather downsizing, and many Kenyans are out there unemployed. But then again, you brought out this the issue of skill set. Maybe in the era of digital revolution, are there platforms that these people can go to be able to enhance their skills?
So the one thing that, you know, I've also seen amongst these entrepreneurs that we work with is an insight which is really, really powerful. And many times we don't figure it out, or people figure it out, if at all they do, late. It's about giving yourself the freedom and confidence to find out. Okay, we see there's within that, you know, population of people who are unemployed, there are also people who are not really trying to find out what is it that I can do, or what is it that is out there. There are people who have not given themselves that sense of freedom that I can actually step out and do something. So that's really, really important. So what I would say is that, you know, this turmoil, I mean, there will never be a time in the history of the world where things will be constant. Okay, so change is a common variable. This is constant. So to adapt to these changes, whichever way they will come, it's job cuts, it's companies folding. It's all about thinking beyond what you're currently doing. It's all about thinking beyond a setup that is, I'd say, quote unquote, in situ, because that's no longer the case. That's not going to happen. Things have changed, and I don't think it will ever get to a point. Maybe if it's like a cycle, then we get to a point where, it will be guaranteed that you get in here and you'll be here forever. Okay. Or you acquire these skills, and these are the skills that you're going to continue. And again, let me give you an example. If you look at the professional landscape, I mean, not very empirical, but I've had conversations with so many people and also just read maybe articles where somebody started a journey as let's say a teacher, right? But along the way, they got passionate about something else because they figured they could probably be having a solution for it. What did it take them to get out of there, out of the employment? So maybe there could be other push factors and other pull factors, but essentially, if you read those stories, if you hear those stories, you find a place of confidence, giving yourself the confidence, giving yourself the freedom to go venture and do something. So I would say there are opportunities out there. In the midst of these challenges, there are opportunities. And with very much respect to those who might not be seeing these opportunities and they would wonder, okay, what are you talking about? So I think it's something that we have to, all of us, we sort of have to have a lens that we are calling everyone a change maker world. So just that ability to see that everyone can indeed be a change maker. And so if I know of an opportunity, that someone can tap into, and they don't have knowledge of that, you're providing the success. So I'd say it's sort of democratizing the space of opportunities, right? So it's not just a few people, a few networks that are opportunities just revolving within very few networks. And I'm talking about that because I'm very familiar with the space. There's a lot of the same people. So I think it's high time we figured out how to democratize this space so that those who are not accessing this because they are in far-flung areas or because they don't know really get to access this.
So there's still hope for the job seekers out there?
There's still hope. There's still hope. In fact, I mean, there's hope because, like you said, when we moved from agrarian revolution, there were disruption. That disruption got other people outside, and some people got into the system. So the opportunities were created. Some opportunities were shut. Some, what was existing collapsed. When we moved into industrial revolution, the same thing. I mean, it was all about factories. So if you had certain sets of skill, literacy and numeracy, there were certain skills these were the skills on demand. So you would see those opportunities, right? For agrarian, it was if you had land, that was a capital, yes. Right? So then as we continued moving, I mean, every epoch, I think there is what is on demand. So for those who are out there, you don't have jobs, just look at what is on demand. And the good thing is that what's on demand right now, it's not necessarily found through, academic system. Not necessarily. Academic is really good, grounds you, gives you framework and understanding of the world, but it's not necessarily found in there. And also, what is now on demand is not necessarily harnessed within organizations or within companies. It is a space, it's a time where you can actually just step out and do something, so long as you have that deep conviction and you're doing the right thing.
So, which is this one practical entrepreneurship skill that should be focused on by the competency-based curriculum, and also how should it impact on the learners at an early age? Yeah,
the skills. I mean, there are many. There are many.
I just want to.
There are many.
Yes.
There are many. There are many.
Yes.
I mean, as I look at it, because also with a very deep understanding of just the different levels and requirements for different set of entrepreneurial ventures, I think the one thing that I would say really must be at the core of this is creative problem solving. So the ability to spot a problem, to spot a challenge, and think creatively how to address it, how to bring out a solution for it. That's really, really important. And this is something that can be done from a very early age, So we grew up at a time we were told children are here to be seen, not to be heard. That has changed over time. And, different conversations always say that's pretty much the what is defining, you know, Gen Z attitude, because then there was a shift. They're not just here to be seen, they're here to be heard, right? Yes. So it's a good thing that we've gotten to that point where children are not just here to be seen, they're also to be heard. So we can start that early, I mean, from school system, learning institutions to, I mean, at home, just giving them that opportunity to find solutions. And it could be just something basic. I mean, it's just basic questions. You know, I've seen you are having a challenge with this. What do you think would be the solution to this? But most importantly, also just raising their awareness or consciousness around societal issues, right? So these are some of the challenges. I mean, it could be environmental, it could be cultural, it could be political, whatever. So just getting them to be conscious around those challenges, and just teasing out what would be the solution for this. They will not give you a sophisticated answer, but then if that becomes the way of their learning and practically getting to a point where they start building things, you give them a voice to talk about those things, you celebrate those things, I think then we'll get there, because entrepreneurship really starts from a place of trying to solve a challenge. Everything that we see as opportunities, we see them as opportunities because an entrepreneur thought of a challenge that was within that system and wanted to come up with a solution.
Okay. Yeah. Are the teachers and trainers adequately prepared to deliver entrepreneurship content, like creative problem solving that you've just talked about under CBC?
So it's a value issue. I'd say like not many people are prepared for that. Not many people know that's supposed to happen or even how to go about it, and teachers included, right? But because this is something that is gaining momentum, it's gaining traction within no time. I mean, because we are not talking about teachers who grew up somewhere else. I mean, who were trained somewhere else. I mean, within that culture that was advancing, you know, a certain way of thinking, factory worker. But now, you know, things have changed, and you know, it takes time, you know, to see, and that's also something that, you know, entrepreneurial people will see. You know, you not only think about, and for me, I always urge people to think, let's think about not just the short term, let's think the long term, right? On the short term, any change brings a lot of pain, brings a lot of confusion, and brings a lot of challenges. But when you think long term and you start picturing where this is going, then you start making the right decisions, you start making the right shifts, that then, you know, that long term will not be so prolonged. To get to that end game will not be prolonged, it will be shortened. So yeah, teachers, I think, I see many teachers are really stepping out, and you see that will also mean they must be incentivized, you know, to think beyond the curriculum. So if a teacher is advancing, supporting, you know, students to be entrepreneurial, but that's not really, they're doing something unique that is not necessarily in the curriculum, that should be incentivized, right? So if their promotion is along, you know, what have you done in class, how many graduates, I mean, how many students are getting A's and everything, if that does not change, then they don't change, because what is the incentive for them? But if we celebrate them, like anyone who is advancing entrepreneurship, problem solving, you know, this creativity, if it is not celebrated, then we will deem it, because who would want to focus 100% in graduating students who are entrepreneurial, innovative, if that is not celebrated, if the institution does not have a culture to celebrate that, if the system does not celebrate that, if the process is not for that.
Okay. Earlier on, you did talk about policies being one of the challenges to entrepreneurship. And I would like to hear your views as we wrap up, are what the private sector and academia institutions can do or corroborate to bridge that gap between education and entrepreneurship.
What I would say, because this is also very practical, something we did with universities across the region, we created different touch points, you know, because we know the world is changing, we need more entrepreneurs. So for the industry and academia, we created linkages, we created spaces for them to meet and test out ideas. We want to make sure that you are redesigning your curriculum in a way that corresponds with the need of the labor space, okay? But at the same time, being careful that the labor space or the industry don't unnecessarily influence your curriculum, because there's some school of thought that says that is how curriculums, the education, the learning experience was watered down, because then the industries wanted to advance a certain way of thinking, they say capitalism.
Okay.
And so it changes, right? So we are having this, we created these linkages where we developed a joint advisory groups. So where we have industry players and the academia discussing where should we be heading, what skill set are you looking for, right? And then the academia is also looking at what content do we have. Can we have not this very basic way of attachment, but where they actually come and learn, and they're learning from a place of, I have seen in this industry, this is a challenge that is existing, and I want to own this, you know. So it's an attachment that helps them develop a portfolio as entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Yeah, so there should be those, you know, conversations.
I feel there's so much you haven't touched on, but my producer is on my case to wrap up. But we'll call you again to our studio and we get to discuss further about mentorship and networking and how they play in nurturing young entrepreneurs. And that is Vincent Otieno, the Regional Director, Ashoka East Africa, talking about supporting entrepreneurship and also how they're supporting more than 100 social entrepreneurs in the country and globally 4,500 entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
Yes, and much more is coming up. Or rather, there are more young entrepreneurs being onboarded into your program. And we put a cap on BizCheck this afternoon. It's actually it's morning, this morning. My name is Njenga. Up next is Kurunzi Mashinani.
Among the many ingredients used in Japanese cuisine is an important one you may not have heard of: kanten. It's in every dish you see here. Kanten, or agar jelly,